Geometry Unit 5 review of special segments and triangle inequalities. For questions 1 through 4, refer to the figure at the right. First question wants us to name a median. Things to remember about a median is that it must start at a vertex and it must go through a midpoint of the other side. So you need a vertex and a midpoint. So the vertices of this triangle are I, H, and G. So I have to start at one of those corners and end up at a midpoint. So when I look at it, I start from I, go across to the other side. K is not a midpoint because I don't see tallies on both sides. If I start at H, come across, I hit J, and J is the midpoint because I do see tallies. So H, J is my median. All right. And we put a segment bar on top. Now we need an angle bisector. An angle bisector has to have a vertex and two congruent angles. So when I look at I again, I don't see two congruent angles coming from its corner. When I look at H, I don't see two congruent angles coming from its corner. However, when I look at G, I do. So if I follow this line from G all the way to the other side, I would hit L. So my angle bisector is GL. You can name it with the segment or you can name it with the ray. Since it does continue to go in that direction, that's fine. The next thing we're looking for is a altitude. The altitude needs a vertex and it needs to be perpendicular to the other side, so a 90-degree angle. So when I leave I, go to the other side, I see a 90-degree angle. So that means from I all the way to K, that is my altitude. So IK. And it needs a segment bar because it stops. And lastly, we have perpendicular bisector. For the perpendicular bisector, we need a midpoint and we need to be perpendicular. So we need two tallies, we need tallies on both sides, and we need a right angle. So my two tallies were on J. We've already established that J was the location of the midpoint. And I see a right angle also at J. But if I go up, there is no other point. However, when I go down, there's M. So the angle of the perpendicular bisector is MJ or JM. And it's a line with arrows on both sides, so you would draw a line with arrows on both sides at the top as the correct symbol. All right, number 5 says that PU is the median of triangle PTQ. There is a lot of triangles on this picture, so if I were you, I would have a highlighter handy, and I can't use my highlighter tool, it's a little thick, but highlight the triangle of reference. So PTQ, PTQ. So it's this triangle here. Okay, also highlight the segment they're talking about. So segment PU right here. So when I focus there, this is the median. So again, what do we know about a median? We need a vertex. So our vertex is P. We need a midpoint. So that means U is the midpoint of TQ. So that means on both sides of U, I expect to see a tally. So label your diagram according to the information that's given. The next thing they tell us is that from U to Q, so this distance here is 6. It would like us to find the distance from T to Q. So from T all the way to Q. So what is that distance? If you look at it, TQ represents the side of the triangle. And TQ is the whole side. It's made up of two parts, TU and UQ. And we know that U is the midpoint. So we could essentially say 2 times UQ is going to be TQ because it's the same distance on both sides of U. So in other words, 2 times 6 is TQ, so that means it is 12. So again, if it's possible to write a geometric equation, please do. The geometric equation was the first equation I wrote. You know, I look for those items, so please do that. For number 6, segment PS is the angle bisector of our triangle RPT. So highlight that triangle so it stands out. RPT. And then the segment is PS right here. It's an angle bisector. So what does it do? It has a vertex. The vertex is P, and it splits both P into two congruent angles. It then goes to tell us that the measure of angle RPS is equal to 4x plus 7. So RPS is the angle on the left side of P. And then RPT represents the big angle. So all of corner P, 10x minus 2. What is the value of x? So we got some angle addition going on here. We have two parts and we have a whole. The two parts are angle RPS and angle TPS. And then the whole is angle RPT. So similar to last time, since these are congruent and we only have one of them anyway, we have RPS, we could say 2 times the measure of RPS is equivalent to the measure of RPT. So 2 times 4x plus 7 is equal to 10x minus 2. So distribute your 2, you would get 8x plus 7 equals 10x minus 2. Now we can solve for x. Subtract 8x on both sides, you get 7 equals 2x minus 2. Add 2 to both sides, you get 9. Whoa. Rewind. Sorry. I forgot to distribute 2, 7. So that should be 14. Okay. So 14 plus 2 is 16. So that's a 16. equals 2x. Now divide both sides by 2, you would get a equals x. All right, number 7. PT is an altitude of triangle PSQ. So PSQ is right here. The segment is PT, and it's an altitude. What does an altitude need? It needs a vertex and a 90-degree angle. My vertex is P. There's my 90-degree angle. Then it says the measure of angle PTS, if I trace that, PTS is this way, is 3x plus 24. So that's this angle here. What's the value of x? Well, on the other side of PTS, PTQ is a 90-degree angle. So PTQ is linear with PTS. So that means it's also 90 degrees. So the measure of angle PTS is equal to 90. So that means substitute 3x plus 24 for PTS, and it's equal to 90. Now we solve for x. Subtract 24 on both sides. You get 3x is equal to 76. Sorry, 66. Yes, 66. And then divide both sides by 3. So x is equal to 22. Number 8, PT is a perpendicular bisector of triangle RPQ. So RPQ. So it's the biggest one we have on this diagram. PT is the segment of interest right here. So what does a perpendicular bisector need? It needs to be perpendicular. So there's my 90-degree angles, and it needs to bisect. So that means T is the midpoint of R to Q. So RT is congruent with TQ. And then it tells us the distance from R to T is 9.5. Find the distance from R to Q. So RQ is equal to RT plus TQ. And again, since RT is the same as TQ, we can say 2 times RT. So that means 2 times 9.5, which is 19. So RQ equals 19. Number 9 comes from day 2, where we talked about the triangle inequality, and the sum of the two sides will always be greater than the remaining side if it can be a triangle. So for number 9, in each set of numbers, we're going to establish if it can make a triangle or if it can't. I'll just do a couple with you, and you'll do the rest on your own. Here's a trick, aka shortcut. If you take the two smallest sides, add them together, and they're greater than the longest side, then that's enough information to say yes. Hope you caught that. So on the first set, the two smallest numbers are 12.7 and 6.5. We're testing to see if it's greater than 17.9. Okay. When I add 12.7 and 6.5, I would get 0.21. That's 19.2. Is 19.2 greater than 17.9? Yes, this is a true statement. So that being said, yes, this is a triangle. All right, for the next set, we have square root signs, but the same rule applies. Find the two smaller ones and see if it's bigger than the biggest one. So I need to see if the square root of 5 plus the square root of 8 is greater than the square root of 14. Okay, guys, yes, you may use your calculator on this part. And on the test, I'll allow you to use the calculator for just this part. And you just need a basic scientific calculator to get this done. You don't need a graphing calculator. So the square root of 5 is about 2.24. And you need about 2 decimal places to make a statement. Just one or rounding up to a whole is too much. The square root of 8 is, sorry, my computer is moving a little slow, is about 2.83. Let me try that again, just to be sure. Yes, 2.83. And then the square root of 14, it's about 3.74. Oops, 4. So, without even actually adding this physically, can't you see that they're going to be bigger? You have 2.2 point something, so that's going to give you a 4 point something at the minimum, right? And 4 point something is larger than 3.74. So that means yes, this is a triangle. Because this is true inequality. But for kinetics, 2.24 plus 2.83 is equivalent to 5.7. So it's way larger than 3.74. So please do the other two sets by yourself. And again, write yes or no if it doesn't work. For number 10, it says the side lengths of a triangle are 13, x, and 9. What is the range of values for x? So when it's asking for range, this is when we use the min and the max. To find the minimum, you subtract. So 13 minus 9, and that gives me 4. To find the max, you add. So 13 plus 9, and that's 22. So when you write the range, you write it as an inequality. So minimum less than x less than maximum. That's all. Number 11 says, in triangle ABC, the measure of angle A is 5n minus 11. The measure of angle B is 7n minus 57. The measure of angle C, 2n plus 38. What is the order of the sides of triangle ABC when listed from longest to shortest? So you probably want to draw a triangle and label your vertices A, B, and C. Then you might want to label the information that's given. So A, that's an angle, it goes inside, so 5n minus 11. B, again, goes inside. I just don't have enough space right now, so 7n minus 57. And then C was 2n plus 38. So we're given all three interior angles of this triangle. And what do we know about the angles of a triangle? They add up to 180. So the measure of angle A, plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C is 180. So that means 5n minus 11 plus 7n minus 57 plus 2n plus 38 equal 180. Combine your like terms. 5n plus 7n, that's 12, plus 2 more is 14 n's. Negative 11 minus 57 is negative 68, plus 38 should be a negative 30. Let me double check. Yeah. So what are we going to do first? We're going to add 30 to both sides. So I will get 210. And divide both sides by 14. Is 15. Now that I know what n is, let's find the actual value for each angle. So the first one, A, is 5 times 15 minus 11. 5 times 15, that's 75. 75 minus 11 is equal to, brain fart, sorry y'all, 64. For B, that's 7 times 15 minus 57. So that's 85. No, 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 no. What's 75 plus 30 more? 105. So 105 minus 57. 48. And then 2 times 15 plus 38 is 68. Double check to make sure our mathematics was right. So 64 plus 68 plus 48 should equal 180. Great, it does. Now this is from day one. So the longest side needs to be first. The longest side is always across from the largest angle. So our largest angle is angle C. The side across from C is AB. So this is first. The next largest is angle A. Angle A is across from BC. So that's second. So the correct order again is AB followed by BC and lastly AC. Let's pause right here and I'll resume in just a second.